Cave. The stars turn and a time presents itself. Welcome then once again to the Smut Cave. I, as always, am your host, the Spelunker, joining you now 10 years on from when we first began this particular internet web program. Remarkably, we are still live and on the air, and joined today by another female visitor to the cave. This one in the form of young auteur, artiste, comedian, Sarah Squirm.
Hello everyone, hello. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining me in the cave today. It's great to have you here.
So much for having me in the cave.
Always interesting bringing new people into the mix. But you seem to have a vibe that's very much at home here within this cave.
Yes, I feel at one with the cave. Kill me. So the show that I run at Helltrap Nightmare is like this little world we've created where I build everything and paint everything so that like the show, it's just a comedy freak show showcase, but it's like you're entering this world where I've made ball sacks out of chicken skin, and you know, when you go to a show where the poster is a ball sack with nipples squirting blood, and then you're at the show where there is a ball sack made of chicken skin, and then you cut it, and then there's two eyeballs as balls. I know. It's like we like that you're transported into a different dimension.
Sarah, Sarah, plot that Sarah!
Rattle those chains!
Now I want to kill myself so fucking bad.
So the posters and the video art, and then I host the whole thing, and so it's like everyone performs ensconced in the nightmare.
Your dad stares intently at you as he slides his shaft into and out of the shell's wet hole. Just relax.
How would you describe your stand-up? Is there a certain way you like to present yourself on stage, or a way in which your stand-up transpires?
Well, I started doing comedy with like, I moved to Chicago and I was doing all this improv stuff, and I was like, I don't really get along with others, and I don't think this is like this is where I can best find my point of view and my voice. So then I started doing stand-up at these noise shows where everyone was doing freaky shit. Like my friend Mike Sugarman was like pulling chorizo out of his boxers and swinging it around like it's his dick. And like, so that's sort of the environment where I started exploring my stand-up voice. So I was like inspired by all these like noise artists. So it's like, it's half that and half like me challenging myself to write like real jokes that will do well at like the Laugh Factory in front of tourists from Indiana who voted for Trump, you know what I mean? So it's like a blend of that.
It's like every time I see a fat pair of titties walk right on by, I'm always like, oh yeah!
What would you say has been the most extreme reaction from your audience to your work?
I really love Jackass. So I basically, after Trump got elected, everyone's comedy was like, hey, he's got like weird hair and small hands. And comedy was very annoying for a while. So I just watched a lot of Jackass because no one's trying to be clever. No one's trying to outwit any like impending political apocalypse. They're just like dumb dudes like smashing themselves in the face with hammers, and it's hilarious. Out of context, no matter what political time we're in, Chris Pontius like dancing around naked is funny to me, or anyone, or like Dave England shitting upside down in a poop volcano is funny. So Jackass Live was coming to Chicago, and I was like, I'm gonna convince Chris Pontius, I'm gonna go to the meet and greet, and I'm gonna convince Chris Pontius to do a crazy stunt with me. And I built this like exploding boob apparatus that like when you punched it, like blood would explode, and it had like a nipple with hair on it. and whatever. So I built this whole thing and I planned it out that I was gonna go to the meet and greet and ask Chris Pontius to punch me in the tit, and I had my friend film it. And basically what we got on camera is me going up to the B-level crew of Jackass. So it was like Chris Pontius and like Preston and Wee Man and being like, hey, will you guys punch me in the boob? And they were like, absolutely not, you're a psycho, who are you? You're a random girl who's just assaulting us at a show and asking us to do something crazy. And then I have on camera Chris Pontius saying like, he's all like fucked up on Quaaludes or some, whatever the fuck. He's just like, I can't punch a girl. I mean, like, one day we'll like punch girls one day, but like, you know, not now, which was just like the most insane response I've ever heard to any. It was crazy. And so I have that on tape and I do this performance where I play it and I like have this discussion about it while I'm playing it. And people are like, that's sort of fucked up that you basically ambushed these like famous people who get ambushed by crazy people all the time and then are like playing this like private moment and exploring it.
But these are people who also routinely prank the public.
Right. And so people seemed a little like upset about that. They like saw that as like an invasion of privacy, and it sort of makes sense that Chris Pontius didn't want to punch a girl on tape and then have that be online. You know, I get that, but yeah, I think it's an interesting performance piece because it's like they're public people who do pranks, and so I wanted to sort of participate in that, especially like as a woman, because like Jackass is definitely not a world that was meant for women.
How is it being a female comedian 2018 America today?
It is sort of a great time right now because it's all of a sudden everyone's like, remember how like women have been screaming for the past 400 years that every man is a rapist? It's like now people are finally like, yeah, every man is a rapist and they're horrible. So it feels like now people are listening more and there seems like there's more of a need for, people are finally realizing that women need to be heard and have interesting things to say. And a lot of my stuff is very much like, I've been told that my hairy Jew, pubic, female body is gross, and so that's a lot of what I'm exploring. It's like, well, fuck you. If you think it's gross, then I'm going to make big, clay, veiny boobs with nipple hairs that squirt. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So it feels like a sort of a good, you know, I don't feel like anyone's telling me to go kill myself or something.
Right.
I feel like people are listening now. We started this show Helltrap Nightmare because it was like, I'm like, okay, we're gonna have comedians and noise performers share a stage because both of them are funny. Like they're usually like solo performers having a mental breakdown on stage and being incredibly chaotic and absurd.
I feel like to be a noise performer, you have to be in like a difficult phase in life.
Oh, you have to be, you're crashing pots and pans against your face like you're having a moment, and so are stand-ups. They're constantly having a moment. Stand-ups are whiny babies who are having identity crises constantly all the time in front of you, on a stage in front of people they don't know, and like that's where they're comfortable. But like the thing with like noise bros and like music bros is they've got their arms crossed and they're really serious all the time, and it's like, can't you see that this shit's funny? So I started the show to like mash those two worlds together because like noise is comedy. It's absurd, it's abstract, it's bizarre, like it's screaming. Like what's funnier than screaming?
Sarah, I'll ask you the question which I ask most of my guests who come on the show, which is, what is the worst thing you have ever seen on the internet?
I watched that 4 dudes, 1 hammer thing when those like Ukrainian kids like beat that guy to death with a hammer.
So a murder.
I watched a murder. That's smut, right? That's what smut is? It's like murder.
Oh, Snuff.
Snuff. Okay, Snuff. Yeah. Right. It's, yeah, I watched, because I was like, oh, I'm tough. And then I was like, wait, I'm a double Pisces. I'm really emotional. This is horrible. I can't watch this. I tried to be tough.
So then, when you look into the future, what do you see for you, for the world?
I see the world, honestly, I'm a hopeful person deep down, because like the only way the world can change if people are hopeful and not cynical, and you know people who vote for Bernie and shit like that and want to imagine a better future. But like honestly, the apocalypse is nigh, and I'm worried, but you just gotta have hope that it's fine. And for myself, I just hope that I can pay my bills by drawing nipples that are the pupils of an eyeball for the rest of my life. And I hope that that's the rest of my life forever. And I hope someone gives me $1 billion so I can do whatever I want.
Sarah Squirm, thank you for coming
Thank
on
you.
my program today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, hearing about your work. We look forward to the next piece.
I hope I didn't say anything stupid.
The internet will be the judge of that.
Great.
Smut Cave, Smut Cave, Smut Cave, Smut Cave.